Hello and welcome to another episode of Fat Sounds Podcast. Nearly forgot the title of my own show then. Yes, Fat Sounds Podcast. Tonight we have a bit of a legend. He's known on Instagram as Surf-Based Spark, but some of you might also know him as Positive Charge. He heads up the mental health awareness group for construction workers, well, for anyone on Instagram. And behind the scenes is where we're going to go tonight. And we're really going to delve into what he does as a volunteer. Now, please welcome Duncan Thomson. I remembered your name on this podcast, mate.
Yeah, that's all right. We've been chatting long enough now. I'd like to think you remember.
I always want to say Duncan Goodhue. I don't know why. It's like a mental block.
That's fine. If it's easier, we'll go with that next time.
Okay, sweet. Right, so now, Duncan, tell us a little bit about yourself. Take us back to the beginning, mate.
Oh, okay. Left college, 16, and I went into an apprenticeship as a marine engineer. I got a job as an apprentice working for Honda as a power equipment technician. So working on marine engines, generators, all that sort of stuff, quad bikes, all that sort of guard machinery.
Cool stuff that I need. I need a quad bike. I would also like a Honda dirt bike. I'd also like a Honda CBR. I'd also like I like most Honda things, to be fair. I'd like a Honda sit on mower. That would be decent as well.
Yeah, it is decent equipment, let's be honest. You know, the cars, I must admit, probably not my cup of tea. But the bike, it's good stuff, and they have been. They were really good to me. It was a good apprenticeship. Really enjoyed it. I learned a shitload, and it is quite diverse, especially in the marine industry. There's a lot of different systems, from electrical stuff, hydraulics, pneumatics. So I did that for it's 3 to 4 years. But just in that sort of interim period, I got made redundant as an apprentice.
That's bad.
It was coming into sort of that 2008 recession stuff, and they couldn't fund the apprenticeship any longer. So I was in that sort of bad period where I was on apprentice wage. I couldn't afford to do anything, and they were going to basically sack off my 3 years. And I was going to walk away with nothing, which I wasn't mad happy with. Luckily, I got taken on by another marine engineer who wouldn't employ me because he couldn't afford to, but he said, I'll tutor you and get you through your MVQs, get it all passed out and everything, but you have to be self-sufficient. So we shared a workshop and, took in a bit of work. And to do that, I used what little redundancy money I had to set up on my own. I set up my own business as DT Marine, and here in the Southwest, that's what I did in a tiny little. At the beginning, I started in the boot of a car. That's how little it was, and it was a roll top toolbox. Started out, and it just built up from there. I ended up traveling around Devon, just fixing out boards, inboards, all that sort of stuff. Like I say, a bit of guard machinery, generators, that sort of stuff. So ticking over, finally got passed out my apprenticeship. And it was a struggle. Because of everything going on, the fact that I got made redundant clearly meant that there was no business. So, yeah, I ended up going and working on a ship. Got eventually employed by the ship into the Merchant Navy, working on their systems. So I started off as a deckhand, basically, just loading cargo and, helping passengers, that sort of stuff. And then I eventually got into the sort of the engineering side of it on the ship. So sort of slightly bigger stuff than I was ever used to. And then went back to college, started doing a few bits through there. And that's when it became a little bit more technical, especially with the electrical side, or 240 and everything, and even a bit of HV stuff. And it was going really, really well. And I probably spent 8 or so years on the ship. And yeah,
so when you're on one of those ships, how long would you be at sea for?
Well, the particular ship I was on, it would be classed as a small ship. You're talking about 300 ton. And it was a half cargo, half passenger ship. So we would take 267 passengers out for day trips and for holidays, stuff like that. It wasn't like a tanker or a cruise liner and stuff. It was, a relatively small ship, but the training would have been the same if it was a slightly larger ship. It's of a when it's sort of comes under the Merchant Navy flag, the standard has to be the same. So you do all your safety courses and all that sort of stuff. It's all sort of high end stuff, even though we're a small ship. But I would be away, like shifts. It'll be a couple of day shifts, the odd night shifts. We used to do night watches. There was always someone on board, a minimum of 2 people. So I'd often be away for a couple of nights. If I'm honest, I much prefer being away from home, because I had the mentality of the more I'm away, the more I'm earning.
Yeah.
And if the offer's there to make money, I'm going to make it. And at that particular time, I kind of needed it. I was looking to obviously to move out and do things, and I like expanding my knowledge. Going on courses. I'll self-fund myself all the time. If I can get on a course and I get, because that's what it is these days. You need a ticket. You need a ticket for everything. That piece of paper will open that door. That's what I need. So yeah. I started sort of self-funding. So stuff that the company wouldn't provide, I sort of provided for myself, tools, whatever, just to better myself. So I was there for 8-9 years. Until I was about 2016, I think it was 15, 16. I had an accident, or not me, but there was an accident at work, and I lost a colleague. And it kind of affected me, and it still affects me now. And that's the main driving force behind what I do, and the whole positive charge thing. And we'll get into that if you want, but I left basically. I couldn't stay at sea, and even though I miss it massively, it was one of the best jobs in the world. I absolutely loved it. I love being away, and so I left there, and I needed a job desperately. So I ended up going for a dead end job working for a tool hire firm, and I was just sat in a factory type environment, looking at a breeze block wall, fixing tools that construction workers were bringing back, and like any hire equipment, used, abused, and destroyed. And it was my job to put it right. And it was just dead end, boring jobs, pat testing, that sort of. It just wasn't for me. And came home. My home life was not great. And my missus said to me, "You're just not happy in your job." I said, "No, I'm not. This isn't what I want to do. This isn't me." And I kind of got offered a job working on a holiday park as a sort of ground maintenance, and just to be outside was a massive benefit. What better than cutting grass on a ride-on mower with your headphones in and getting paid for it?
So just take this back a bit. So we now know you're on the ride-on mower, and you're starting to love life a bit more. But let's go back to and it's going to be a tough subject for you. I know it is, mate.
Yeah.
Let's go back to a little bit about what happened at sea. Don't have to get specifics.
No.
Let's explore that. Let's give people an insight into what happened, how you dealt with it, and how you're coming out the other side, and how that
Yeah.
all leads into what you're doing now.
Yeah. Well, so we'll start that particular day. It, like any normal day, loading cargo up in the morning. We were planning to do a cargo run. Just literally no passengers, just whatever it was, 4 or 5 crew on board. And tied up in harbour. And we were pretty much ready to leave. And I think we had one of the crew was on the quay, myself and one other was on the ship, and we were just having a chat with our linesman, Nick. So his job is
linesman.
So a linesman he would be on the shore. His job is basically to let go of the lines and catch the lines on the ship as it comes in and out of port. So he came on the ship, and we were just like this, just chatting. Literally sat down having a coffee, chinwag, chatting about life, whatever. It was nice day. Weather was not great. The crossing was going to be crap, and a bit choppy. And we went up, so left Nick to finish his coffee, and me and one of the other guys went up onto the bridge wing, which is sort of basically the top end of the ship. So we're looking at quay, waiting for the captain to come on, so we can drop lines and leave. And at that particular moment, I heard the most horrendous scream that you've ever heard in your life, and I cannot unhear it. And that's what sticks with me more than anything, is I've never heard. I never want to hear it again. And it turns out it was Nick had tried to get back ashore by himself, because he didn't want to disturb anyone. He thought he'd go out a door out the side of the ship and go along the side of it and jump onto the quay. Because it was a little bit rough, he's going along. Nick's a big bloke, we're talking 20 plus stone. He goes alongside, and we've got these big sort of huge wooden fenders on the quay to keep the ship off. And he got crushed between the wooden fender and the ship. It literally just came in, and he was pinned there. The ship wouldn't move, and honest to God, it was the worst noise in the world. We looked over the side of the ship, saw exactly where he was, and it was horrendous, if I'm honest.
So what's going through your mind at that moment? So it's a horrendous sound, but like, what's in your head at that moment?
We had to get him out of it, if I'm honest. I had, we ran down there, and immediately, again, at that particular time, I was with the RNLI, and it, and that sort of stuff, and plus the ship's training, all sort of kind of kicked in. But Jesus Christ, the sense of panic and like, shit, I've got to do something. It is hard. So I get down to sort of his level, realised he's proper pinned in there. And we immediately let half the lines go on the ship just so he could come away, so they took the pressure off. But you could see that he was, because he was physically crushed, he's still screaming at this point. He had no strength. He had nothing. So we, between the three of us, come down what we call the belting, so the side of the ship, grabbed hold of him, kept him on the side of the ship, just kept him up whilst the ship drifted off. So the stern of the ship was out basically out hanging in the harbour, just so we could get that distance. Because he's a big bloke, we couldn't move him, without us potentially getting into danger. The ship's moving a lot. It was dangerous for us. And at this point, we were like, what do? We can't physically move him. So I made the decision to basically drop him. I said, we're going to have to drop him in the sea, because we physically can't hold him. I said, we were straining. We couldn't get a life buoy on him, anything like that. We had no equipment with us at that particular time to recover him. So I made the decision. I said, just drop him in the sea. I said, and I will go in after him. So the other boys dropped in as I basically got inside the ship, emptied everything out of my pockets and just dived in after him. And he went down. Yeah. And I don't think he couldn't do anything himself. Let's be honest. He's still alive at this point, and he's still sort of screaming and talking. But yeah, it took a lot of effort. I got him up and I wrapped my legs around him, kicking, and I was treading water for, well, basically I was keeping him afloat for as long as possible, whilst everyone was on either on the ship or the quay, and they were trying to do this and that, and there was physically no way of getting him out. We couldn't get him back on the ship. We were far too low in the water. Couldn't get him onto the pier. Yeah. So while all this was going on, the lifeboat was on its way. So yeah, that moment there, whilst I've got him, I'm talking to him, which, you know, I'm trying to keep him conscious. It dawned on me. I thought, let's be honest, with what had happened and the condition he was in, I won't go into the graphic details and all that, but he wasn't gonna live. So yeah, I think the lifeboat told me, I think from launching to getting to us, I was treading water for 20 minutes, half an hour, keeping him alive. But I knew after 15 that he'd passed away. But at that particular moment, it didn't hit me. I was still in that, we're going to save him. That's all that matters. We're going to get him out. We're going to fix it. It's going to be fine. So yeah, kept him going, kept talking to him. Obviously, there was a point where I had no response, and yeah, I still wouldn't accept it. So I kept fighting, kept talking to him, and yeah. Anyway, all that, lifeboat turns up, and I don't know how. Even the lifeboat crew said, I don't know how you did it, but I physically grabbed hold of the lifeboat, grabbed him, and I threw him into the boat. I said, I don't know how, but as I've now found out from the RLI doing that sort of stuff, when you've got that adrenaline, you become that superhuman strength, and you don't even think about it. You know, I was like, I don't care. Literally, get him in. The RLI were like, get in. I said, you ain't got enough room. This is a small boat. You got 4 of you now in there. I said, get him in there. I said, I'll sort myself out. And anyway, swam back, and I climbed up the ladder whilst the guys were working on him on the boat. I could literally see them trying to do CPR on the boat on the way back in. And I was thinking, it's, you know, I still didn't want to accept it. I was like, it's so quick that it happened. So I got back in, and immediately our captain at this point, he was on scene and just said, look, go in the shower. He said, just go in there. And honest to God, I must have been in there for God knows how long. And I was sat in the shower for, I don't know, half an hour, and it was almost just trying to warm up, but it was a cold shower. It was, you know, it was freezing. And that's all I can remember as well, is literally just sat there for, it felt like ages. I came out, sort of, eventually we got word from the hospital that he basically had passed away. And I was like, well, I kind of knew that. But as soon as they said to me, I broke down. I was like, and looking back on it now, it was the period between, we were there chatting, having a coffee, having a laugh, and within 5 minutes, well, you know, or 15, he's no longer with us. And all because he wanted to not make a fuss and not bother anyone and not ask for help, to say, any chance you can get me off the ship. Because he was such a nice bloke. He would have made all the difference.
Is it fair to say, like, he's probably done that before? Like,
yeah, and let's be honest,
thing that you guys do.
We do. We all do it, and we all kind of know the risks. And it was just a poor judgment call at that particular time. You know, it was the weather. It's that we say the rule of three. You know, the weather, the circumstance, where we were, where he was, the time he passed through that tight squeeze and all that stuff. Yeah, we used to do it daily.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, this is going to be a tough question. What affects you about it? Because obviously, from my perspective, I see you've done everything you could. You made the tough decision. You've done everything you could. What affects you about it now? Like, afterwards, is it? Do you have some guilt? Do you have some, like? Is there anything within you that's affecting you, or is it just the circumstances?
Initially, again, because I was part of the RNLI at the time, I had dealt with shit situations, not to that extent, in as much as it was live. I'm normally there when it's past, shall we say.
Yeah. So
that sort of stuff didn't affect me, but it was someone I knew, and it was literally someone that I'd just spoken to. And yeah, that affects me in as much as you don't know when your time's up, your time's up, you know.
Yeah, the finite nature of existence can
end
in a second.
Yeah, and the phrase really got to me that loads of people used to say in the job, and a lot of people say it now, is when people cut corners or whatever, they say, "Oh, don't worry, no one died." And I was like, that really got to me. I was like, you've got no fucking idea, you know.
Yeah.
We joke about it because then in everyday life, no, yes, I know accidents happen, and he's not the only, and he ain't going to be the last accident. But things like that, the noise, again, I've never heard it since, and I wish I never do. But I can't unhear it. I've never heard a man scream for his own life as much as, you know, it is painful. And that, yeah, I still hear it now, and I think and this is what's caused me to do it now. It's been a couple of years since that accident happened, and it never really affected me. But I think there has been, I can't pinpoint the trigger point, but yeah, stuff does affect me. Stuff will bring it back. And if I'm honest, the whole positive charge challenge, the cold shower, that is a constant reminder, but I'm still going to do it, you know. That reminds me of that particular scene, and I'm like, yeah, but that's not defining me anymore. I'm going to be bigger. I'm going to, you know, that shit happened, and that's made me who I am. But I need to be better now.
How do you deal with life now after that horrific incident? How does it affect you daily in your decision making and your life and you know, sleep and all stuff like that? Or through your training as RLNI and now Coast Guard is something we're going to get onto in a minute. Have you done counselling? How do you deal with these situations? Situations?
Well, no, I haven't done any counselling. I've always been offered it. I was offered it by my employer at the time, and I found just the lifeboat again. they were a massive support, and because of what we do, there was always sort of a help line to ring if needed. Again, I've never rung it. I know crew that have, and they've said it's a massive help, but I never wanted to do it, and I kind of wanted to. I shut down basically, and I deal with it myself. I find my own ways. The RNLI way I deal with that side of stuff is probably not the would be a logical way of dealing with it. You know, I like to use humor, but I can't really do that with Nick. That again, there's just little bits that is slightly different, and how I deal with that.
They call it gallows humor, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's gallows humor. It's like, you know, you're all dealing with something to do with death at that moment. Like, you're all up for being like, whatever, and then you all sort of make a joke about it, but really you're all suffering, really.
And I think the team morale sort of mentality as well, that's probably from the RNLI and now the Coast Guard, that's the biggest counselling you get, because you're all by the pun, you're all in the same boat. You've all experienced it. You're all going through it. You know exactly. I mean, I know crew from now that I've done jobs with that they still suffer with. Everyone deals with that sort of stuff differently, and how you deal with it. Everyone, some have had to have, proper long breaks from it, and now coming back and still struggling, and some people literally can't deal with that side of stuff. But someone has to, if I'm honest, and I don't do it. The RNLI, the Coast Guard side, I don't do it for glory hunting, or it's just in me to help others, and I think it always has, and it always will be.
So bringing it to present day, we're going to touch on the 28-day challenge and positive charge stuff in a minute. Wanted to is talk a little bit about what you do now as a volunteer Coast Guard. You do that once a week. What's that like? Tell us a bit about life as a volunteer Coast Guard.
Yeah, well, I transferred from RNLI to Coast Guard shortly after, obviously, the incident. At that particular time as well, I just had a son, and we moved house, which meant I was no longer in the proximity of the lifeboat station. So everything changed. Literally everything changed within those very few years. And I was passing lifeboat crew, or I was passing Coast Guard crew at the time to get to lifeboat jobs, and I was like, this is madness. I can't get there. I thought, I'm going to try Coast Guard. You're going to pretty much the same job in a different aspect.
So let's get into that for a sec. Let's talk about difference between Coast Guard and RNLI.
So the RNLI are, let's be honest, they're the people that everyone thinks of when you go to sea rescue. They're the ones with the big blue and orange boats. And they'll go out in all weathers. But predominantly it is a sea rescue service. That's what they do. Now the Coast Guard side, that is a land-based service. So we are the official fourth emergency service. So you would call 999 and ask for the Coast Guard for anyone in a coastal emergency, if it be medical, our particular patch, we do cliff rescue, mud rescue, sort of inland sort of water rescue. So that could be flooding or
river. I'll tell you what, that is one thing that used to terrify me as a kid. Quicksand.
Yeah.
Like, my dad would be like, when we went to the beach, and like if we went to like a far away beach, if you like Devon or Cornwall, we'd be like, careful of the quicksand. There's quicksand around here. And I'd be terrified. I'd be running along and I'd be like, you know, when you're just standing on the beach and you thought, is that quicksand? Is that quicksand?
Yeah.
I was terrified of quicksand. And I think everyone had like this sort of fear of quicksand without actually ever experiencing it. But my question to you is this a thing?
Quicksand, yeah. I mean, we would probably refer to, I mean, yes, there are a certain thing as quicksand. We don't get it in our area, but we get like silt or mud. So where we are in Bideford, in North Devon, it is, we've got 2 rivers that are very muddy, and it's quite a close river that some people like to try and attempt to walk. Ain't gonna happen. You could literally walk along and you'll be, you know, sort of squelching, and then all of a sudden you'll be knee deep, waist deep, and there's no way out. You know, and that's one of the rescues that we deal with, and we deal with it fairly regular. So it's a lot of specialist equipment. I mean, and sometimes, depending on the tide, that the lifeboat can't get there. The only other sort of service that potentially may be able to assist is the fire service. You know, but we've often gone there and we've had to help the fire service. It's one of those sort of specialist rescues that we do. So
it's not a joke. It's not like people just get caught in the mud and you come throw a rope around and pull them out.
No, we've come across some real near misses. You know, if you've got someone up to their waist and the tide is coming in, the tide comes in our estuary very quickly. You're talking, you know, if you were waist deep, your head could be underwater in half an hour.
Terrifying.
And if you're the rescuer in there and you have to make that decision of how you're going to rescue someone or potentially not, that sort of stuff can be horrendous decisions to make. Luckily, we've only had very few near misses like that. We've never had one, but we know the service around the country. You know, we deal with that sort of stuff all the time. So it doesn't have to be the mud side of it. The cliff side is probably the bread and butter of what we do.
You say the cliffside, is that people falling off it, people out trying to climb, can't get back.
People get cut off by the tide. Dogs going over the cliff is quite a common one. Really? So people let the dog off the lead. Sometimes holidaymakers or even locals, the dog doesn't know, throw the ball, dog's going to go after it. He doesn't know what the cliff is. Before you know it, he's over the edge. You know, so we'll go down for the dog, and not necessarily to save the dog. Let's be honest. It's more anyone who has a dog, it's part of the family, and if we don't save them, the owner will. They'll put themselves at risk. So we'll do it to, you know, to stop the owner doing that. You know, that's why we do it.
A friend of mine, he had a German pointer, and that chased a sheep off a cliff, like in Wales. It's he had to climb. He's quite an experienced mountaineer, so he just like hooked up, went down there, got him back, and you know, done the business. But what's the stupidest thing you've seen around the coast?
What, the stupidest thing that we've been called out for?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd ever say that. Some of the stuff is you can get called out for what clearly isn't an emergency. Hoax calls, we get those. You know, people have called us out, and they'll sit there and just look at the blue lights flashing and go, "Yeah, that's great." We can't do anything about that, you know. And wish we could.
That's super annoying, though, isn't it? Because you're all sort of you're in the truck or car or whatever you're in, go into the scene, sort of getting mentally ready, getting sort of prepared. Yeah. Don't know what you're coming across, and then boom, there's nothing there. And I suppose that's just like complete waste of energy. That, you know. Because guys are volunteers, and
it doesn't matter how long you've been in the service. As soon as your pager goes off, the adrenaline level and everything, you have to move. You have to be quick. because the way I see it, as soon as that pager goes off, that's someone asking for help in some form or another. That's someone who needs assistance, and your instant reaction is to run. You need to help someone. Doesn't matter in what capacity. 9 to 10 you don't know that until you get to station, or sometimes even to scene. So yeah, there has been, let's say, some silly ones. Not so much hoax as well. We get people setting off stupid things like Chinese lanterns and stuff. People think they're flares or stuff like that, or sometimes firing flares, and people thinking they're fireworks or whatever. You get all sorts of stuff like that. But then we also get, especially now, we get a lot of jobs to help other services. So the ambulance service or whatever, if they need assistance, especially potentially with COVID stuff. We are all sort of community responder sort of level trained. So we will attend that stuff. We've been called to assist. Just when their levels are low, just to get someone on scene, even in sort of a first aid capacity.
That's
we
amazing.
will attend.
I don't think people understand that you guys are full for emergency service, and that you guys are on the front line as well as other emergency services like the police and ambulance and fire service and that. I think I'm a bit blown away by your story tonight, Duncan. We're definitely going to have to revisit you for a part 2. It's just got to happen, because I think I don't think it does it justice, your story, if we carry on much more talking about lighter things. I think tonight, mate, you've blown me away with, and I'm just going to put this out there now. I'm honoured to the core that you told that story to me on this platform. That's a story worthy of welcome.
I know. Yeah, I know. I'm new to the whole podcast thing, and but I feel it's a story that I need to tell, because I want. It's not like I'm trying to get sort of any sort of reaction. It's been on my mind for years. Let's be honest. And that's part of it. Makes me want to help others even more. Again, we'll save it for another time. But the whole positive charge thing, that's all sort of, it's got to that moment because of what's happened. And I want to just try and help other people. And this is not a Nick thing. This is, more of the Coast Guard lifeboat side of me. Is I want to help people before they physically need my help.
Let's talk about that then, because there's something that we're all involved in. Me, you, and Matt.
Yeah.
We've done this podcast. Well, we sort of got together, trying to think of a way to sort of talk about mental health in a way where people can relate. People don't sort of yawn at it. And then it sort of come about that we wanted to create some sort of challenge, or have a month where we really put the focus on avoiding getting into the depths of mental health. Not necessarily, and this is also a solution to, if you're down, it's one possible solution. So between the three of us, we come up with a challenge that anyone can do, any fitness level, any age. It's more about the discipline of the mind. And I know you're super passionate about this, because actually we amalgamated it all in with Positive Charge, your Instagram channel or Instagram page. That you've been pushing. You had some fantastic feedback from that. Really good things going on.
Yeah, it has. I am actually blown away by how well it has been received, and I am. I was just happy. I said to you before, just even the three of us, just having that sort of team mentality of let's just do something to better ourselves. Even if it just, we bounce off each other, and if you do something on your own, it's so much harder. And if we're all having a down day or whatever, we all come together and we'll sort of, and I'm just thinking, the wider we can spread that, the better, and that was kind of the idea behind the positive charge. And the smallest little things, like a inspirational quote or something I've heard from somewhere, or now let's say stuff that people send me, if I can put it out there and it makes that difference or make someone smile, let's be honest, a simple smile costs absolute nothing. And I find that just in life, when you see someone in the morning, just smile, say good morning, because I think that's been lost now. That difference can make someone's day.
Do you know, it's funny, before I get onto that story, I just want to say a little bit about 28-day challenge. This is something we come up with, me, you and Matt. It's starting on February the 1st. It's 28 days where you will wake up at 5 a.m, go for a 1 mile run or walk, whatever you want. You'll do 10 push-ups, 10 burpees, go in, have a normal shower, then turn that bitch to cold, turn it right round to cold, stomach it for as long as you can, get out of there, and you will only drink water or black coffee, no eating until 1 p.m. No eating until 1 p.m.
Until 8.
You're allowed to eat from 1 p.m. till 8 a.m. in it. 8 p.m. Sorry.
8 p.m.
So 1 a.m. So 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. is your eating window, and then the rest is black coffee and water. And we're going to be doing that for 28 days, no alcohol, and we're going to see what the results are at the end of those 28 days on your mood, health, and vitality.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we've had people already sort of joining up, so the more we get, the better.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll put will this come out in time? Let's double check. This may very well come out in time. So yes, this will be out next Thursday. I'll edit it all round. So this will be out next Thursday. So Thursday, the 28th. The link to the 28-day challenge is in the show notes. And join our WhatsApp group and get involved. It's going to be tough. It's not easy, but anyone can do it. It's just all in the mind.
Yeah. No, and I think we've got, with all of us in there, we'll spur each other on. Definitely. I think that's, and as I've had conversations with before, and I've said to you, just getting involved. You don't have to stick it. It's not law. It's not set in stone. If you, get up at 6, I know you're not really doing it, but it's not the end of the world. I would prefer the more people get involved, the better.
Get involved, do what you can, come out the other side feeling better about yourself is the message, isn't it?
Definitely.
Duncan, it has been an honor. Honestly, mate, what an inspirational story. I'm blown away, and I know people will be. Thank you so much for your time. Part 2 will be around the corner.
I'll be.